If you have kids and have spent any time on social media, you know there are a lot of teacher influencers out there. Today's guest, Matt Eicheldinger, is different. He's a middle school teacher turned best selling author and viral content creator. Matt has built a massive following by sharing short, relatable stories from his classroom and life, connecting with hundreds of thousands of people online. From humorous moments to heartfelt lessons, Matt shows how storytelling can inspire, educate, and entertain. Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So, when we think about flipping your script on social media, that's one thing. You have flipped your script on your career because you're
Yeah.
we're talking and you're not in a classroom. So, talk about how where your career was going and where it is now and how that happened. I think it's fascinating.
Sure. It's a long story, but I've gotten better at condensing it. I've been a middle school language arts teacher, sixth grade specifically, since 2009. I taught in a classroom for 15 years. I had no intention really of being an author. When I, jumped into the career of teaching, it's something that has come very organically. And so the way this kind of all started was when I was 21 years old, my first year teaching, I wrote a book for some students in my classroom that were reluctant readers. It was a compilation of all these embarrassing stories I would tell in my classroom of myself to kind of like, incentivize kids to finish tasks, right? And the kids liked it so much, I decided, well, that might be cool to like have a book on a shelf someday. How do you do that? And so I researched and I went through the process of sending query letters to New York City. And I sent letters to New York City for 15 years. And I've been rejected hundreds of times on the same book. But I would show my students the rejection letters every time I got one. And we would talk about persistence and, how to set goals and pivot when you need to. And in the middle of the pandemic, I believed in my idea so much, and so did my students, that I decided to self-publish the novel and hustled it for like a year and a half, I think, going to conferences, book fairs, anything that I could do just to get noticed, because that was my ultimate goal. I just felt like I had a good product. I just needed someone to see it. I ended up meeting with an agent in 2023 who really believed in my idea. The catch was she only represented people who did women's nonfiction history books. And I said, well, why do you want my silly little book, which is based on my life? And she said, well, I believe in your idea, which was very sweet. And we ended up selling that book in a 2-book deal pretty quickly. But it was not enough to replace my teaching salary. It was a good deal, but it didn't even come close to replacing a salary. But my wife and I took a risk, and I decided to leave the teaching profession. I'm technically contracted. I'm on leave right now from the district. And then that first year of me being an author, I decided to start social media. And the only thing I could think to share were these stories that I had saved in my classroom. I had saved thousands and thousands of stories working with kids, just as a way to like have something to look at when I retired. And the same time my first book released, my social media took off very quickly. And my first book hit the New York Times bestseller list on its first day. And that's what has sent me into the world of publication and being an author. And it's every day, the last couple of years has just been a big learning curve, but one that I'm happy to be on. It's exciting to be on this side of education.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
If this was a podcast about books, my next question would go one way. If it was a podcast about rejection and fighting for your dreams, it would go another way. But alas,
Sure.
it's a podcast about social media. And I think the interesting thing that people sometimes fail to remember is that, and I think your story speaks to it so well, is that on social media, you can influence to scale. So when you were sharing stories that impacted one student or 10 students or 20 students, even in a bunch of periods during the day, that was important and there's value in that. When you
Sure.
bring that to a social media platform, you can influence to scale, which means there's more people to say, hey, Matt, thanks so much. And there's more people to say, Matt, you're a loser, whatever, So
Sure.
what has that been like to suddenly have your audience go from a classroom to global?
Yeah, I don't think of it as global, but it is bigger than it was. I got lucky in that I had some moments to kind of prepare me to have a large social media following. So to rewind a bit, during the COVID-19 pandemic, I had to teach in a classroom by myself remote, and I was there for a full academic year. It's the closest I've ever come to quitting the profession. And we weren't allowed to leave the classroom. And I was more or less really sad. I was just really sad during the day. And I needed something to do to like kickstart my creativity a little bit and like my joy for the profession. So I started a TikTok account, which I had never really been on social media. And I decided just to have some like middle school humor. So I like talked about some silly things that happened during my day, or like, the trials and tribulations that are silly as a teacher, like having to spend my whole prep unjamming a stapler, right? And so like I had had some like companies reach out. I had like maybe a few thousand followers, but then in the same year, I went to my local Target parking lot and it was flooded. It had been a huge rainstorm and the main drain was right in the middle. I knew where it was. So I was like, told my wife, I'm like, hey, watch this, film this, because I knew where the drain was. So I went up to this drain and I swirled my hand and the whole parking lot started swirling like a giant toilet. And we put that online on my 2000 account TikTok. And within 24 hours, it had 20 million views. And I had never had so much attention in my entire life. I had every company on earth reached out to me within 48 hours. Can you make another video? Can we take this video and pitch our product? There's people analyzing what shoes I was wearing, where I might be from. Like it was wild. But it kind of set me up to like understand what social media was at the time. So like I was ready not for the attention, but to handle the attention. Does that make sense? Like I was kind of like primed to understand what comes with a viral video. And so when I started sharing these positive videos from my teaching experience, I didn't think they would go viral at all. I was just trying to prepare myself to be an author. But the first like 10 videos all hit over 1 million views. And I rose very rapidly in followers. But I was ready. My wife and I came up with a list of rules that I follow on social media. The first one is I just don't argue with people. You can send me whatever message you want. I'm just not going to argue with you. There's some other rules too about like companies that I partner with and stories that I will not tell because I can't protect the privacy of the kid or it's not my story to tell. But I just like to say that I was very ready to navigate it, if that makes sense.
And couldn't we all benefit from just adopting Matt's rule? Don't argue.
Yeah. I have many rules, but that has kept my platform positive, right? There's been a lot of things that I wish I could speak on just because, like everybody, I feel like, oh, maybe if someone heard my opinion, it might change theirs. But I don't think that a social media platform is the authentic way to do it. I think there's better ways to engage in conversations than through a comment on a video that someone else posted.
And you use the word authentic, which is so
Yeah.
critical, and your content is so authentic. I know people can find anything to argue with, but in watching your
Yeah.
videos, it's you sharing something that you personally experienced, something that you personally witnessed, went
Yeah.
through, and a little bit of your takeaway, and they're all very positive. Now you're educator slash content creator slash author.
Yeah.
Is it hard to keep coming up with the stories, with the authenticity, the vulnerability, or is it easy for you?
Well, the actual storytelling and posting is quite simple. It takes me under 10 minutes. I'm lucky in that I have content ready to go in boxes in my basement, journals, electronic files of all these stories, and I have a good memory. So when I pull a story out, the actual task of me scripting the story, recording it, posting it, it doesn't take that long. But one of my rules is I don't post every day. I don't chase growth. I just don't. I think that, there's all these videos of people saying like the way I grew is I posted 10 times a day and all these different these attributes that they think are attributed to growth. And I tried posting every day and I noticed very quickly that not only was I burning out just staring at my phone, I was also like losing authenticity in the story that I was telling. And so I believe in my approach to social media is if you show up authentically and you are genuine in what you're talking about, your audience will show up. They'll find you eventually. I don't know how long it'll take, but That's why I prioritize stories over everything else I do. I don't pitch my books that often. I focus on the story. And if it's authentic and resonates, then it'll do its own thing. It has to have legs of its own. It can't just be pushed out every day.
Oh, so many good tips wrapped up there. Don't chase growth.
It's tough. Like I think some of my friends even believe that I spend like a few hours like editing these videos. I mean, up until a few months ago, my phone, well, actually most of the time still does. It sits on a COVID-19 computer stand that I bought for like 20 bucks on Amazon. I have to balance it carefully. And I don't even have a microphone, and I just stand outside. The production value is so low. And it's just I don't want to change that because I think it keeps me a little bit more grounded. Like I don't need the ring light. I don't need anything else. The story itself should be what carries it, not the way in which I produce it.
And that speaks to the authenticity. I mean, there's the visual
Yeah.
authenticity in your videos as well.
Yeah, I hope so. Like when I meet people on like if I go on a small book tour or when I go to an author visit, if I meet someone who follows me online, one of the first questions I ask after we're done interacting, I'm like, am I the same guy you see online? Because if we're different, then I'm doing something wrong. Like I don't want to have an online personality and then an in-person personality. That's a lot of work and again, not authentic. So I want to show up in the same way I show up in person.
Another really valuable lesson that wouldn't it be amazing if this
Yeah.
is what social media was? At this point, Matt, if I were to, meet you for the first time and I knew nothing about you, what do you describe your profession? Like, are you an author? Are you a teacher? Like, what are you?
Yeah. That's a good question. Can I recline my chair and we can go through a therapy session? Because
Sure.
yeah, no, the first, my first few months out of teaching, there was a lot of just questioning who I was because I always identified as a teacher, maybe in the same way that a firefighter or police officer does, because I felt it very much to be a community role,
Mm.
right? And everybody knew me as a teacher and knew I was good with kids. And now it's like I'm an author, and yeah, I had a really good first release, but nobody knows who I am outside of social media. What am I? What's my role in the author possession? Am I just an entertainer now? Because books are entertainment. So is that what I do? And I had to spend a lot of time figuring out like what is my brand? Is my brand teacher? What is it? So when people ask me what I do, I always lead with that I was a teacher. I say I'm a teacher on leave because I don't know how long this author thing will last. So I say I'm a teacher on leave and I am a full-time author currently. I don't even mention social media.
I imagine that makes people ask questions like, "What kind of books?" and "Tell me more," or
Yeah.
or are they confused?
No, they usually a common question is like, would I know any of your books? And I just say no. No, I don't think you would. And I think the allure of being an author is many people think that you sign a book deal, millions of dollars roll in, and you will be famous for the rest of your life. And in the scope of authors out there, one side being the 1% that have movies being made of their books, and then the other end of the spectrum being people who self-publish and no one knows their books. I don't even think I'm in the middle. I think I'm more towards the self-publishing side. I make a good living for myself and my family, but it's cool to know that you can be a successful author and not be that visible, if that makes sense.
And if you became that visible, you're open to that, but the purpose of what you're doing isn't for the outcome. Just like what you're
Right.
doing on social media, it isn't about the followers, it isn't about being known, it's about the purity of the story and the commitment
Hmm.
to the story. Is that
Yeah,
right?
and that is right. And part of that deals with the longevity of what I put out into the world. So like I know my books will be there for a while, but also probably what I've put online. And so I think of my own two kids often. What will they see of their father 20 years from now if all this still exists online? If they have the opportunity, because my kids don't have social media, but if they have the opportunity someday to go through my Instagram and my TikTok and my Facebook, what will they see of their father? Will it be the same father they saw at home? Or is it going to be this online personality who tells a story about a kid and then pitches children's deodorant? Is I don't want them to remember me that way. And so that's why I treat what is happening right now as very temporary. I don't think I'll be a content creator 15 years from now. I might, but I'm not planning on it. And when you treat things as temporary and special, then you want to do it exactly how you want to do it. And so I'm choosing to do this my own way. I don't want to copy anyone else or chase any trends on TikTok. Like, I just want to do it exactly as I'm doing it.
It's really lovely. And you beautifully described what I talk about with the people that we work with, executives, different audience,
Okay.
but digital legacy. Like
Sure. Yeah.
digital legacy is something that most people aren't even aware of and don't even think about the grandkid or the future child doing a search or
Yeah.
going into an AI generative answer about the person. And you're one of the few people I've ever heard outside of people in my industry who like fully understand the gravity and the importance
Sure.
of digital legacy. And not because it's about the millions of people, it's because of the people that live in your house right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to embarrass my kids at all, my wife, like any extended family. Something, one of my earlier rules was like, I won't dance, which sounds like a silly rule, but that was what was trending at the time, right? I danced for the first time a couple weeks ago, but it was because we did a donation campaign for kids and I hit the goal. So I did a silly little dance, right? That's something that I can stand behind because it was grounded and rooted in something good. And so when my kids see me dancing on TikTok or wherever that one time, they know the story behind it. They were involved. They helped pack the boxes of the free books we gave away. So there's little changes that I make over time as long as I can foresee that it'll be representative of who I am at my core.
Tell us what the next new cool thing you're working on is.
Well, the book that just came out is the first in a young adult trilogy called When the Rain Came. It's a dystopian novel. At face value, it might seem that it's very different than what I do online, but the through line and the theme of the whole trilogy is what is a family. I worked with so many different families as an educator, and there's a lot of preconceived notions of who could be a family and who can't be, and I wanted to tell that through a very different lens. And so, yeah, it's dystopian, but that's the core theme. So I have those books. That first one just came out. I also have a sequel to my book Sticky Notes, which is like stories from my teaching career, except the sequel is stories from my childhood that follow me chronologically. I've got early readers coming out that I illustrated for like preschool and kindergarten. We just announced my first graphic novel, which is also very different. Like it doesn't mirror what I do on social media. It's very silly, which I guess is kind of me. People don't see my silly side on social media. That's reserved for my family and my students, I guess. But those are some of the projects I have coming out soon.
That's incredible. That's a lot of content, a lot of writing, a lot of different things. And I so appreciate how open you are about your process and where you get your insight from. And if you're not familiar with Matt and you want more about the sticky note story, it's pinned on his social
Oh yeah.
media. And it's really, really charming and heartwarming and has a positive message. Matt, talk about the music because the way that you
Oh
use
yeah.
music in your writing is so unique. And you talk about that on social quite a bit.
Yeah, thank you. I have yet to meet another author who does it in the same way. I'm sure there is, but the way in which I write is I don't plan the book. And this sounds really cheesy, but the idea just comes to me. I'll be on a run and then boom, it's the whole plot of a book within like 30 seconds. And yeah, there's tweaks and stuff, but I really do wait for ideas to hit me. I'm just still learning about my process. And part of that process is when an idea hits me, I need to find a song that captures the emotion that I'm going for. I just have to. I think that stems from I grew up in a very small town in Colorado, and my mom opened up the first dance studio there. She taught dance for 10 or I think over 10 years. And I took tap, jazz, and ballet. So music was very much like a part of my upbringing. And when I write, I listen to music, but I listen to the same song on repeat. So, like this young adult trilogy that I've been writing, it's been the same song, which is like 3 minutes and 56 seconds, and it just loops. And it happens to be instrumental, it's mostly piano. But I've also listened to the same song when illustrating all three of my Matt Sprouts books. And when I wrote Sticky Notes, I had a single guitar song. I just feel like it really puts me in the space of the mood and the tone that I'm trying to capture for the whole book. Like, yeah, there's different scenes that'll be different than what the music's giving me, but it really just helps me block out the rest of the world and allow me to just really integrate myself into the story that I'm telling.
I've never heard that until saw your social media that authors do that, and it makes so much sense. And then when
Yeah.
I heard you had someone on one of your social media posts playing the song,
Yeah.
and that was really cool. And it just sort of sets the vibe. And I
Yeah.
wonder how many people who read your books listen to the same song while reading the book.
I don't know. I think for this book, this trilogy in particular, there's like it's a beautiful song, but there's angst in it. It's like it sounds like rain, which is great, but then there's also like it feels like you're walking forward. And I think if people listen to it before this book at least, it'd really help put them in the mood. But what I love doing is I wait until after the book is done, and especially after it's contracted to make sure it's coming out. I'll reach out to whatever artist that was and be like, "Hey, I just want to let you know your art inspired my art, and I think you should know. I would love to send you a book." And so David Talk is the artist who played the song for me. He's the author who, or excuse me, the composer of the music, and he was so thrilled to know just like how his music impacted something else. I did that with the books that I illustrated too, and it's nice to connect all these different art forms. Like it's kind of cool to see how they come together. And then also like the trickle down. So the music inspires me. I write the books go into a school, and then kids write their own comics or do spin-offs or fan art and create that. And it's nice to know that it's like it's not just me. There are other people a part of this. And so when people say like, "Oh, you're a wonderful author," I'm like, the words go on the page, but like there's so many people involved in the process to make this happen.
Wow, it's really a cool story, and I appreciate how open you are sharing it on social media, how generous you've been with your story and your time today. And I think the takeaways that we all can learn from is on social media: don't argue and don't chase growth.
Yeah, those are two really good ones. And then, if you're looking for a last tidbit of advice, it's that I know that if you're trying to grow and be seen, it can be daunting to post every day and watch the view count go up. But what I tell everyone, authors and content creators included, is your audience is out there. They will find you if you show up authentically. Because everyone doesn't, it's not necessarily the content that people want to connect with, it's you, it's who you are. And if you can get that to come across in your videos or your art or whatever it may be, you will have an audience of some kind.
It's a great place to end the conversation. We're going to have all of Matt's handle social media links on the website. Follow him and listen to the music, read the books, good content. Cheer on teachers.
Thanks,
Matt.
You're welcome.